The shocking arrival. The galaxy had been at peace for centuries. The ruling alien empires controlled vast stretches of space, their fleets patrolling the stars without challenge. The Galactic Empire, led by the powerful Empress, had always been unchallenged. Their strength was unmatched, and no one had dared to threaten their authority for hundreds of years. But today, something was different. In the cold, endless expanse of space, a new presence emerged. The first signal was a faint, unexplained blip on the scanners of an outlying alien station. It was just a small anomaly at first, easy to ignore. However, as the hours passed, the signal grew stronger, more persistent. It could not be dismissed. General Raxus, Empress' voice was sharp, filled with an uncharacteristic urgency. Report on the unknown signal. The general, a large figure draped in dark, battle-worn armor, stood at the helm of the Empire's main warship. His eyes narrowed as he read the data on the screen. A mix of confusion and disbelief spread across his face. "Your Majesty, it's coming from beyond the Valthor Nebula," Raxus said. "It's an unknown fleet, and it's heading directly toward our borders. No one has ever come from that direction before." Jorah stood silently, her sharp eyes narrowing. She had seen and heard of many things in her long reign, but this was something different. A fleet, unknown and appearing out of nowhere, was advancing on her empire. This would not be tolerated. "Deploy the scouts," she ordered coldly. "I want to know everything about this fleet. Move now." The fleet of scouts, a group of smaller, faster ships designed for reconnaissance, was quickly dispatched to investigate. As they moved toward the source of the strange signal, the tension aboard the Empire's flagship grew. General Raxus turned to Jorah. "Empress," he began hesitantly, "should we prepare for battle? If this is a hostile force, we may need to act quickly." Jorah's face remained stoic, but her mind raced. The unknown fleet's approach had stirred something within her, a rare feeling of uncertainty. She had ruled for so long, her empire feared by all, but now her enemies were unknown. Were they truly a threat, or was this some sort of trick? Before she could respond, one of the scouts sent back an urgent transmission. The message was short, only a few words, but it sent a ripple of shock throughout the command room. "It's humans. They have 200 supercarriers." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. The Empire had encountered many species, but humans were still something of a mystery. They had been a fledgling race, primitive, and barely surviving. No one had taken them seriously. But now, they were sending 200 of their massive warships, and they were headed straight for the Empire's heart. Jorah's eyes narrowed, her lips forming a thin line. Humans, they were the last species she had ever expected to pose any real threat. How had they developed such a powerful fleet? What had changed? "Gather the council," she ordered. "We need to discuss this at once. This could be the beginning of something unprecedented." Meanwhile, aboard the human fleet, Captain Roderick Ellis stood on the bridge of the Lid supercarrier, the Iron Titan. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with determination. The journey had taken months, but they were finally within range of the Galactic Empire. His fleet, a force of 200 massive supercarriers, each capable of wreaking havoc on a scale never before seen, was ready for the confrontation. "Captain, the Empire scouts are already reporting back," his second-in-command, Lieutenant Zora Davis, said from her station. "They're watching us." Ellis nodded, his expression hardening. "They won't expect us," he muttered. "Humanity was never meant to be feared, but now they will know our strength." The fleet moved in perfect formation. The massive ships, each as large as a small city, moved through the black void with terrifying purpose. Their weapons were primed, their shields at full strength. The crew aboard each supercarrier was prepared for battle. But this was no ordinary war. This was humanity's moment, a chance to show the galaxy that they were no longer weak. Back on the Empire's flagship, Empress Shora stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. The human's fleet was growing closer by the minute. She stared at the projection, her mind racing. The audacity of these creatures. It was almost laughable. 200 supercarriers. It seemed impossible. But the scouts had confirmed it. This was no bluff. The humans were real. Jorah's advisors debated furiously. Some argued that the humans should be destroyed before they could pose any threat, while others suggested a diplomatic approach. But Jorah, ever the pragmatist, remained silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "Send a message to their fleet. We will see what they want. But make no mistake," she added, her voice cold as ice, "if they attempt to challenge me, I will crush them." The stage was set. Humanity's fleet, with its overwhelming power, was heading straight for the heart of the Galactic Empire. The Empress's fury was growing, but so was her curiosity. Who were these humans, and how had they come so far in so little time? As the fleets drew closer, the galaxy braced itself for the confrontation that would change the balance of power forever. The first confrontation. The vast void of space stretched out endlessly before both fleets. Humanity's 200 supercarriers, each one brimming with cutting-edge technology and untold firepower, advanced steadily toward the heart of the Galactic Empire. Captain Roderick Ellis stood on the command deck of the Iron Titan, his eyes glued to the view screen as the Galactic Empire's massive fleet appeared in the distance. It was a display of overwhelming power. Thousands of ships, each one bristling with weapons and defenses, moved in perfect formation. The Empire's flagship, the Celestial Tyrant, towered over the rest, its dark silhouette cutting through the starlight. Ellis felt a momentary flicker of doubt, but he quickly shoved it aside. There was no turning back now. "Captain," Lieutenant Zara Davis said, her voice steady but filled with tension, "the Empire is broadcasting a message." Ellis nodded. "Put it through." A holographic image of Empress Shora flickered to life in front of them. Her alien features were sharp and regal, her eyes filled with an intimidating coldness that seemed to pierce through the vastness of space. She spoke in a voice that resonated with authority. "Humans," she began, her tone cold and measured. "You are trespassing in the domain of the Galactic Empire. Your actions are bold, but they are not without consequence. You will leave immediately, or face the full wrath of my fleet." Ellis clenched his fists, but he maintained his composure. This was the moment they had prepared for, the moment humanity would assert its place in the galaxy. "Your Majesty," Ellis replied, his voice calm but unwavering, "humanity is no longer the weak species you once knew. We have come to make our presence known. We will not leave, and we will not be intimidated." The message cut off abruptly. Jorah's eyes narrowed, her expression a mixture of disbelief and anger. The audacity of these humans. How dare they speak to her in such a manner? But she knew better than to underestimate them. She had seen the reports. Their fleet was real, and it was powerful. "Prepare for battle," Jorah ordered coldly, turning away from the hologram. "Engage at maximum range." The Empire's fleet began to move, aligning itself for an attack. The vast warships powered their engines, and their weapons began to hum with deadly energy. But Ellis was ready. Humanity had prepared for this moment for years. They had trained, built, and perfected their fleet for one purpose: to show the galaxy that they were no longer weak. "Activate shields," Ellis commanded. "Prepare for combat." Lock on to their ships. The human fleet mirrored the Empire's movements, each supercarrier moving with deadly precision. The massive ships, capable of withstanding unimaginable punishment, were armed with weapons that could obliterate entire fleets with a single shot. Humanity was ready to make its mark. The first shots were fired from the Empire's ships. Bright energy beams lit up the darkness, cutting through space with devastating force. One of the human supercarriers, the Fury, took a direct hit, but its shields held firm. The crew inside cheered as their defenses absorbed the blast. Humanity's warships were built to withstand the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, and they had proven their worth in this first exchange. "Return fire," Ellis ordered, his eyes scanning the chaos unfolding on the view screen. "Target their lead ships." The Supercarriers unleashed a barrage of devastating energy blasts, striking the Empire's ships with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions rippled through the Empire's fleet as several smaller vessels were torn apart by the sheer power of the human weapons. The Empire had never seen anything like this before. Jorah watched in disbelief as her fleet began to falter under the might of humanity's advanced warships. How could this be happening? Her forces, the most powerful in the galaxy, were struggling against a race she had once dismissed as primitive. "Focus fire on the Iron Titan," Jorah commanded, her voice cold with fury. "We will break them." Her flagship, the Celestial Tyrant, unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, aimed directly at the Iron Titan. But humanity's fleet was ready. The shields of Ellis's ship flared as they absorbed the first few shots. The Titan rocked under the assault, but the human crew held steady, their training paying off. "Status report," Ellis said through gritted teeth. "Shields holding at 80%, Zara replied, her voice tense. "Hull integrity is stable. We can take more hits, Captain." Ellis nodded, his eyes steely with determination. "Return fire with everything we've got." The human fleet responded in kind, launching a full assault on the Empire's flagship. The sky was filled with energy blasts, each one colliding with deadly precision. The Empire's ships began to fall, one by one, as humanity's superior weapons and tactics overwhelmed them. Jorah's face darkened as she watched her forces crumble. Her mind raced. She had underestimated these humans, and now it might be too late to stop them. She turned to her fleet commanders. "Gather the remaining forces. We retreat to the outer systems. We will regroup and strike again." But even as she gave the order, a feeling of dread settled over her. Humanity had proved itself to be far more formidable than she had ever imagined. What had once seemed like a simple threat had turned into a nightmare for the Galactic Empire. The first confrontation between humanity and the Galactic Empire had ended with a stunning victory for Earth. But this was only the beginning. Empress Jorah's rage burned bright, and she would not let this humiliation stand. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The Empire strikes back. In the wake of humanity's unexpected victory, the Galactic Empire was thrown into chaos. The humiliation of being outmatched by a species once considered weak and insignificant burned deeply in the hearts of the Empire's leaders. Empress Jorah, however, was determined to restore the Empire's pride and assert her authority over the galaxy once more. "Prepare the fleet for a counterstrike," Jorah commanded from her throne room, her voice filled with fury. "Humanity will not be allowed to challenge us again." On the Iron Titan, Captain Ellis stood on the command deck, still reeling from the success of their previous battle. His crew had fought bravely, but Ellis knew the Empire would not back down. They would come for revenge, and humanity had to be ready. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the Empire," Lieutenant Davis said, breaking Ellis from his thoughts. "It's from Empress Jorah herself." Ellis frowned, walking over to the communication console. A holographic image of the Empress flickered to life in front of him, her cold, regal face showing no sign of fear despite the losses her fleet had suffered. "You think you've won, humans," Jorah said, her voice dripping with disdain. "But know this, we will never allow you to defy the Empire. You may have struck a blow, but we will crush you. Prepare for the full might of the Galactic Empire." Ellis remained calm, though his heart raced with the knowledge that they had only just begun to face the true power of the Empire. "We're ready for whatever you throw at us," he replied, his voice steady but firm. The transmission ended abruptly, and Ellis turned to his crew. "Battle stations, everyone. The Empire is coming for us. Let's show them what humanity can do." The next few hours were a blur of preparations as humanity's fleet readied itself for the impending onslaught. The supercarriers, each one a floating fortress, powered up their weapons systems, their shields strengthened by the latest advancements in human technology. The crew was on edge, but there was a quiet confidence among them. They had already proven they could stand against the Empire, and they would do so again. "Enemy fleet detected, Captain," Lieutenant Davis called out, her eyes scanning the data on her console. "They're coming in fast. It's a massive force, larger than what we faced before." Ellis nodded grimly. "They're angry, and they won't stop until they've destroyed us. We'll hold the line." The view screen showed the advancing wave of Empire warships, far more numerous than before. The Celestial Tyrant, their flagship, was at the front, its massive form looming in the distance. Jorah's fleet had returned in full force, and they were intent on wiping humanity off the map. But the human fleet was not backing down. The crew of the Iron Titan stood tall, knowing they had a chance to defeat the Empire, but it would take everything they had. They had learned from their first encounter with the Empire, and now they had a plan. "All ships, prepare to form the defensive line," Ellis ordered, his voice resolute. "We won't let them break through." The battle began with a deafening roar as both fleets clashed in the cold, dark expanse of space. The Empire's ships fired first, their massive weapons sending deadly beams of energy toward the human fleet. The humans responded with their own powerful salvo, the beams of light cutting through the void as explosions lit up the space around them. The battle was chaos, a swirling maelstrom of ships, weapons, and energy blasts. The Fury fired its weapons at an incoming Empire destroyer, its powerful cannons blasting through the ship's shields. The destroyer exploded in a shower of debris, but there was no time to celebrate. The Empire was relentless. The human fleet was holding strong, but it was clear the Empire's forces were superior in numbers. Ellis knew they couldn't hold forever. They needed to strike at the heart of the Empire's fleet, to take out the Celestial Tyrant and force Jorah to retreat. "Lieutenant Davis, plot a course for the Celestial Tyrant," Ellis ordered. "We need to take that ship down." Davis quickly worked the controls. "Course plotted, Captain. It's going to be risky, but we can do it." Ellis gave a tight nod. "All ships, follow us. We go for the heart of their fleet." As the human fleet surged forward, they broke through the Empire's lines. Energy blasts rang out, but humanity's ships were moving with precision, expertly dodging and countering the Empire's attacks. They pushed forward, relentless in their pursuit of Jorah's flagship. But Jorah was no fool. She had anticipated this move. As the human fleet closed in, the Celestial Tyrant unleashed its hidden weapon, a massive planet-destroying cannon that was aimed directly at humanity's lead ship. "Brace for impact," Ellis shouted, but there was no time to react. The cannon fired. The energy blast was enormous, powerful enough to destroy entire worlds. It collided with the Iron Titan, and for a brief moment, everything went silent. The human fleet held its breath, watching in horror. But then, a miracle happened. The Titan's advanced shields absorbed the blast, and the ship held together. The damage was significant, but the ship was still operational. "That's it," Ellis shouted, a wave of relief flooding through him. "We can take them." The human fleet pressed on, now more determined than ever. They had taken the Empire's best shot, and they were still standing. Now it was time to show the Empire that humanity could not be defeated so easily. The heart of the battle. The battle raged on, the vast emptiness of space filled with explosions and fire. Humanity's fleet, bruised but unbroken, fought with everything they had. The Iron Titan stood at the forefront, leading the charge, while the other ships followed in formation. The Empire's fleet, although larger in number, had failed to break their defenses. "Captain, we're approaching the Celestial Tyrant," Lieutenant Davis reported, her voice steadied despite the chaos around them. "We're in range to make our strike." Ellis nodded. gripping the armrest of his seat as he observed the massive flagship of the Empire. The celestial tyrant was a terrifying sight, a massive warship surrounded by countless smaller vessels. Jorah was watching, waiting for the moment when she would crush humanity's defiance. But Ellis knew this was their moment. This was the only chance they would get. "All ships, prepare to engage," Ellis ordered, his voice calm but commanding. "We take down the celestial tyrant now, or we lose everything." The human fleet accelerated, pushing forward with laser-like precision. They broke through the outer layer of the Empire's ships, dodging and weaving between enemy fire. Each human ship fired relentlessly at the Empire's defenses, while others held back to form a defensive perimeter. "Shields are holding," Commander Harris from the Fury reported. "But we can't take too much more of this." "We won't need to," Ellis replied, his eyes locked on the celestial tyrant. "We're going straight for the heart." With the human fleet's advanced tactics, they dodged the Empire's bombardment, weaving through enemy fire while closing the distance. Jorah, from her command center, watched with a look of disbelief. Humanity's determination was undeniable, but she believed her fleet could still crush them. "Launch the reserve fleet," Jorah ordered, her voice cold with anger. "Crush them now." Hundreds of smaller Empire warships were launched from the celestial tyrant, surrounding humanity's fleet. They closed in on every direction, surrounding the humans in an inescapable trap. "Captain, we're surrounded," Davis said, anxiety creeping into her voice. "Stay focused," Ellis replied. "We're not turning back now. Focus on the celestial tyrant. Take it down." The battle had intensified, with the human ships now fighting on multiple fronts. Their coordinated attacks were hitting Empire ships from all sides, but it was clear that Jorah was throwing everything. She had to stop them. The human fleet had fought hard, but this was a final push, a test of strength for both sides. As they approached the flagship, the Iron Titan took the brunt of enemy fire. A massive blast hit their left flank, sending the ship shaking, alarms blaring. "Damage report," Ellis barked. "Shields are down to 35%, sir," Lieutenant Davis called out. "Hull integrity at 60%. We can't take much more of this." "We don't have much time," Ellis said, as he watched the celestial tyrant grow larger on the view screen. "Prepare all weapons. We're going in full force." With a determined, steely resolve, the Iron Titan launched its final barrage. A volley of missiles and energy beams shot forward, hitting the heart of the Empire flagship. The explosion lit up the void of space, temporarily blinding both fleets. For a moment, everything was silent. Ellis watched, heart racing, eyes locked on the screen. Then, the celestial tyrant's shields flickered, and the massive warship staggered as it reeled from the attack. It was vulnerable. "Now!" Ellis shouted, and the fleet responded. A wave of missiles, lasers, and torpedoes surged forward. Each hit was more precise than the last, targeting key sections of the flagship, its engines, weapons, and shields. The flagship of the Empire was no longer invincible. Direct hit on the command center. Commander Harris reported, "Their leadership is down. The celestial tyrant is crippled." But the battle wasn't over yet. The remaining Empire ships began retreating, recognizing the fate of their flagship. However, the loss of the celestial tyrant was a crippling blow to the Empire's morale. Jorah, furious and defeated, watched as the remnants of her fleets scattered into the vastness of space. "Fall back! All ships fall back!" Jorah shouted in desperation, but it was too late. Humanity had proven that it would not be cowed. Ellis stood in front of the view screen, watching as the Empire's ships retreated. The human fleet, though battered, had emerged victorious once again. "We did it," Lieutenant Davis whispered, disbelief in her voice. Ellis took a deep breath and nodded. "Humanity has shown the galaxy that we will fight for our survival. And now we've sent a message they can't ignore." The Iron Titan and the other human ships turned back, leaving the Empire in their wake. The war wasn't over, but humanity had won this battle. The galaxy would never look at them the same way again. But Ellis knew this victory was just the beginning. The Galactic Empire may have been shaken, but the true war had only just begun. The aftermath of war. The galaxy was still, the echo of battle fading in the vastness of space. The Iron Titan and the rest of humanity's fleet drifted silently, floating among the wreckage of the Empire's once proud armada. Debris from shattered warships floated in every direction, and the signs of humanity's victory were visible in the burning wrecks that dotted the void. Ellis sat at his command station, his hands gripping the console tightly. His body ached from the intensity of the battle, but his mind was already moving to the next steps. Victory had come at a high price, and the aftermath would be a difficult road to navigate. "Captain Ellis," Lieutenant Davis called, her voice soft. "The Empire's retreat is confirmed. Their remaining fleet is in disarray." Ellis nodded, his eyes still fixed on the debris field in front of him. "But it's not over. This battle may have broken their morale, but they'll regroup. They'll come back." "We've sent a message," Davis replied. "We've proven that humanity isn't afraid, and that's something they'll have to reckon with." Ellis exhaled sharply. "We've only shown them a glimpse. There's much more to come." Humanity's victory was not only strategic but symbolic. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had looked down on humans as primitive, weak, and insignificant. They never imagined that a species so young could challenge their dominance. Now, with 200 of humanity's most advanced supercarriers sending shockwaves through the galaxy, they had no choice but to see humanity for what it truly was, a force to be reckoned with. Ellis turned his gaze toward the communication screen as a new message arrived. It was from the Galactic Council, the same council that had once scoffed at humanity's potential. "Captain Ellis." The screen flickered to life, showing the face of Counselor Varick, one of the most influential figures in the galaxy. His face was grim, his eyes narrowed as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. We did not expect this. The Empire's fleet has been decimated. You've done the impossible." "We did what was necessary," Ellis replied, his voice firm. "Humanity is no longer a footnote in the galaxy. We are a power to be respected." Varick sighed, shaking his head. "What happens now? The Empire is retreating, but they won't give up so easily. They'll be back with greater numbers, with greater strength." Ellis straightened in his seat, the weight of the next step pressing down on him. "I know, but we'll be ready. We've only begun to show what we're capable of. Humanity will defend itself, no matter the cost." Varick hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "And the Council? What role will we play in this conflict?" Ellis smirked, his gaze unwavering. "The Council has made its decision by doing nothing when it mattered most. Humanity won't wait for the Council to act. We're done with being pawns in a galactic game. We'll lead, or we'll fight alone." The counselor fell silent, clearly disturbed by Ellis's words. "You will make enemies with that approach." "Perhaps," Ellis replied. "But I'd rather have enemies who fear us than allies who ignore us." As the communication ended, Ellis turned to Davis, who was watching him closely. "Do you think we've made the right choice?" she asked, her voice unsure. Ellis looked out into the vast expanse of space. The remnants of the battle were scattered like the ruins of an empire that had overestimated its own power. He knew the path ahead would not be easy. The galaxy would not simply roll over because humanity had won one battle. But this was a start, and sometimes that was all it took to change everything. "We've made our choice," he said softly, his eyes fixed on the stars. "And we'll make them remember it." Back on Earth, the mood was one of quiet triumph. News of humanity's victory had spread throughout the colonies, stirring up waves of excitement and pride. Governments, military leaders, and civilians alike celebrated the success of their fleet. The Empire had underestimated them, and now the galaxy was beginning to take notice. But Ellis knew that this was only the beginning. The first strike had been made, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Empire would not rest until humanity was crushed under its heel. And now, humanity had made itself a target. As the Iron Titan and the fleet began the long journey back to Earth, Ellis turned his thoughts inward. The battle had been brutal, but the true cost was still unknown. He knew the Empire would regroup, refuel, and come back stronger. They would be prepared, and they would fight with everything they had. But humanity had shown something the Empire hadn't expected. A unity, a drive, a will to survive that no one could match. The aftermath of war. The galaxy was still, the echo of battle fading in the vastness of space. The Iron Titan and the rest of humanity's fleet drifted silently, floating among the wreckage of the Empire's once proud armada. Debris from shattered warships floated in every direction, and the signs of humanity's victory were visible in the burning wrecks that dotted the void. Ellis sat at his command station, his hands gripping the console tightly. His body ached from the intensity of the battle, but his mind was already moving to the next steps. Victory had come at a high price, and the aftermath would be a difficult road to navigate. "Captain Ellis," Lieutenant Davis called, her voice soft. "The Empire's retreat is confirmed. Their remaining fleet is in disarray." Ellis nodded, his eyes still fixed on the debris field in front of him. "But it's not over. This battle may have broken their morale, but they'll regroup. They'll come back." "We've sent a message," Davis replied. "We've proven that humanity isn't afraid. And that's something they'll have to reckon with." Ellis exhaled sharply. "We've only shown them a glimpse. There's much more to come." Humanity's victory was not only strategic but symbolic. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had looked down on humans as primitive, weak, and insignificant. They never imagined that a species so young could challenge their dominance. Now, with 200 of humanity had shown something the Empire hadn't expected. A unity, a drive, a will to survive that no one could match. As Ellis watched Earth grow larger in the viewports, he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They had done the impossible. They had fought back against an empire that had believed itself invincible. And now, the true test awaited them. The Empire strikes back. The stars outside the Iron Titan were serene, almost mocking in their stillness. But inside the ship, the crew was on edge. The lull of the past few days had created an illusion of peace, but Ellis knew better. The calm was over. The Galactic Empire was far from defeated, and humanity's victory was temporary at best. The quiet was the deep breath before the storm, and Ellis felt it in his bones. He stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the viewscreen as his fleet of warships hovered in orbit above Earth. The fleets of the Galactic Empire had been scattered, their commanders humiliated, but it wouldn't take long for them to rally. They had powerful allies and immense resources. They wouldn't forget this defeat. They would come back, and this time they would bring everything they had. "Captain, we're detecting unusual activity from the outer rim," Lieutenant Tanaka said, his voice filled with urgency. He turned towards Ellis, his face pale. "There are signatures, lots of them, moving fast. This doesn't look like the usual reconnaissance patrols." Ellis felt a tightening in his chest. "How fast are they moving?" "Very fast, sir. Almost too fast," Tanaka replied, his voice strained. "We've never seen ships move like this before. It's as if they're trying to get here in a hurry." The warning lights began to flash on the bridge as Tanaka continued to track the signals. Ellis moved quickly to the command station. The data was coming in fast, but the most alarming detail was that they were heading straight for Earth. The Galactic Empire was coming, and they weren't coming to negotiate. "Get me Earth Command," Ellis ordered, his voice cold. Within seconds, the face of General Weaver appeared on the communication screen. The lines of stress and exhaustion were evident on the older man's face, but he was still sharp. "Captain, I've got the same readings here. They're coming, and they're coming fast. Prepare your fleet. We got no idea what they've got up their sleeves, But we need to be ready. Ellis nodded, his mind already working through the possibilities. We'll meet them head-on, General. There's no time for hesitation. Humanity's done running. We'll make sure the Empire knows that. Weaver's eyes flickered with the weight of the situation. Don't let your guard down, Ellis. This isn't just another skirmish. This is war. The transmission ended, and Ellis was left with only the sound of the Iron Titan's engines humming, a constant reminder that the calm was over. Earth's atmosphere, once so peaceful, had become a tense battlefield. The once calm skies were now filled with activity. Humanity had never been in this situation before, completely exposed, their fleets stretched thin, unsure of what they were facing. The alien empire had tasted defeat, but in their eyes, humanity had only earned their wrath. Captain, we're picking up their signals now. Multiple enemy fleets. They're not just coming from one direction. They're coming from all sides, Tanaka reported, his voice tight. Any idea what they're bringing? Ellis asked, trying to keep his voice steady. He had to remain calm, or the crew would lose hope. They've got massive ships, larger than anything we've faced before. Some of them are armed with weapons we've never seen. Ellis's grip tightened on the console. Get ready. We'll need everything we have to stop them. All units, prepare for battle. As the fleet moved into battle formations, the tension in the air was palpable. Every crew member, every soldier was preparing for the inevitable. The unknown. The unknown enemy ships were a terrifying force to face, but humanity had proven that they could hold their ground. The Empire had underestimated them once, but that was a mistake they wouldn't get a second chance to make. A sudden alarm blared across the bridge. The enemy fleet had emerged from the shadows of the stars, appearing in the distance, stretching across the sky in a massive wave. There were more ships than they had anticipated. Hundreds, maybe thousands, of dark shapes looming in the void. The Empire was here, and they weren't alone. Ellis's voice cut through the chaos. All ships, brace for impact. Prepare to engage. The screen lit up with incoming enemy ships, swarms of them, coming in faster than anyone had predicted. The battle was about to begin. From Earth's surface, the people looked up into the sky, unaware of the devastation that was about to unfold. In the midst of everyday life, in the streets, in the cities, humanity's greatest battle was brewing, and the fate of their entire world would be decided in the stars. On the front lines, Ellis could see the enormity of the battle ahead. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was no longer the weak species it once was. The Empire had learned this lesson in the hardest way possible, but the question now was whether humanity could hold its ground. The cold silence of space was shattered as the first shots rang out. The universe seemed to hold its breath as the battle began. The skies above Earth filled with chaos as humanity's fleet clashed with the Empire's new, seemingly unstoppable force. The sheer scale of the engagement was unlike anything Ellis had ever seen. Ships exploded into showers of fire, debris scattering like broken stars. The Iron Titan was surrounded, its weapons unleashing devastation, but the enemy fleet was relentless. Ellis stood at the helm, his heart pounding in his chest. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for everything humanity had worked for. It was their fight for freedom, for the future, for the right to exist. The Empire had come back stronger, but humanity had something they didn't: hope. And with hope, they could face anything.